Good morning. Here we are. It is Friday. It's the 5th of March. It is also the end of our evolution unit. So today is our test read. I'm going to go over the test, read it for you. And if any of you need it, if it helps, fantastic. So let's get started right away. I almost stopped the recording. There's the present button. That's the one that I need. All right. So let's start going over this beginning to end, pretty straightforward. So, number one, this picture is showing the events of, so look at the two sides of this picture, note what's going on. Is this showing natural selection, descent with modification, mutation, or asexual reproduction? So this picture with the two different birds and the different butterfly moth things, is that natural selection, descent with modification, mutation, or asexual reproduction? Number two, imagine that members of a population died from a chance event, like a flood or a tornado. None of their adaptations were selected to deal with this. It doesn't matter what their traits are. It was bad luck that killed them. They were in the way when a tree fell and it just smushed them. Was this natural selection? Yes or no? So a population gets killed by a freak random event. Is this natural selection? Yes or no? Number three, this is a picture of a cave minnow. We saw it in the lab. A fish that no longer has functional eyes. There is still some eye tissue in its head, but it doesn't work anymore. The eyes of this fish, the cave minnow, would be considered homologous, vestigial, analogous, or adaptive. So the eyes are still in the head, but they don't work anymore. Would that be a homologous structure, a vestigial structure, an analogous structure, or an adaptive structure? Number four, in the last 17 years, coyotes have become major pests for many countries, including America. As a result, we've begun to poison them by laying out trapped food. Many have died, but the poison is working less and less every year. Why? Is the poison working less and less every year because we make less poison and it doesn't kill as many? Is it working less and less because coyotes stopped eating meat? They all became vegan. Is it working less and less because the poison is very strong, but the bait is also very expensive? Or is it working less and less because most of the coyotes that were susceptible died, leaving only the resistant ones? So in the last 17 years, coyotes have become pests. We've begun to poison them by laying out trapped food. Many have died, but the poison is working less and less every year. Why? Because we make less poison and it doesn't kill as many. Because the coyotes stopped eating meat when they all became vegan. That the poison is very strong, but the bait is very expensive. Or that most coyotes that were susceptible died, leaving only the resistant ones. Number five, a bird chases a moth. The moth flaps wildly as it tries to flee, run away. On the wing is a flash of white and the bird flies off. What would we expect to see in the next generation? Next generation, would we expect to see more birds that eat moths, more moths with white spots, more moths without white spots, or more birds that avoid white spots? So the bird chases the moth to eat it. The moth tries to get away, but on its wing is a patch of white, and as it flaps, that flashes and the bird flies off. What would we expect to see in the next generation? More birds that eat moths, more moths with white spots, more moths without white spots, or more birds that avoid white spots? Number 6, which of the following is not part of Darwin's theory of descent with modification? So which part of this was not something Darwin said? That animals produce more young than can survive. That animals must compete for limited resources. That the biggest and strongest animal will survive the most. Or that animals that are well suited for their environment succeed. Which one of those was not something Darwin said? Did Darwin not say that animals produce more young than can survive? Did he not say that animals must compete for limited resources? Did he not say that the biggest and the strongest animal will survive the most? Or did he not say that animals that are well suited for their environment will succeed? Number 7, the Stegosaurus is a huge armored reptile with defensive spikes. When predators attack, the plates can protect and deter the predator. Deter means to deflect, to kind of push the predator off, to convince it this is not a good idea. This means that those armored plates are high fitness, low fitness, moderate fitness, or ultra powerful mega fitness. So it's a huge armored reptile, the Stegosaurus, and when predators attack, the plates not only protect it, but they also deter the predators. Would those plates be considered high fitness, low fitness, moderate fitness, or ultra powerful mega fitness? Okay, I may be getting a little too into it. Number 8, as a species evolves, more and more of the alleles in the population become the higher fitness trait. Which of the following explains this in common terms? So we want an explanation for the fact that the high fitness alleles become more common in the gene pool. Is it because better traits mean they make more babies, which might also have the good trait? After several generations, everyone in the population may have the good trait. Or natural selection will pick out the best traits and eliminate them first. The survivors will then pass on the traits that made them successful. Or a magical wizard fairy says Godzilla and pop, it happens. It's not that one. Or number 4, survival is based on making children and has nothing to do with the traits the organism has. So number 8, as a species evolves, more and more of the alleles in the population become the higher fitness trait. Which of the following explains this in common terms? That a better trait means they make more babies, which might also have the good trait. After several generations, everyone in the population may have the good trait. Then natural selection will pick out the best traits and eliminate them first. The survivors will then pass on the traits that made them successful. That a magical wizard fairy says Godzilla and it happens. Or that survival is based on making children and has nothing to do with the traits an organism has. Number 9, critics of the theory of evolution state that we have never observed evolution actually occur. Which of the following is a very real world example of evolution? So that is that dinosaurs evolved from their earlier ancestors over millions of years. That birds are the modern day descendants of dinosaurs split from them only 275 million years ago. That since the 1950s, hairstyles have changed a lot, and people use so much product, their hair was essentially plastic, so maybe it hasn't changed that much. Or the evolution of bacterial resistance over the last 30 years. So which one of those is evolution that we have seen happen? that dinosaurs evolved over millions of years, that birds are the modern day descendants of dinosaurs, that hairstyles have changed, or that bacteria have evolved resistance to antibiotics over the last 30 years. All right. So, modern evolution theory, that's important, modern, uses the work of what two scientists, as is shown on this poster. So it says the natural selection of beetles. First, we talk about the variation that they have. Then we talk about their differential reproduction based on what's good and what's not, the heredity that passes on the good trait, and then finally what the new population looks like. What two scientists have both of their work in this one poster? Is it Mendel and Lamarck, Darwin and Lamarck, Mendel and Locke, or Darwin and Mendel? So this poster shows the work of what two scientists that together make up our modern evolutionary theory? Is it Mendel and Lamarck, Darwin and Lamarck, Mendel and Locke, or Darwin and Mendel? Number 11, what is this an image of? All right, so we see all these things. We had a whole lab about it. What is this an image of? Are these homologous structures, analogous structures, vestigial structures, or third femoral arteries? What is this picture an image of? Homologous structures, analogous structures, vestigial structures, or third femoral arteries? Number 12, peacock tail feathers in males. Remember the long, bright colored tails. That is an example of, we had a lab on this too, is that sexual selection, natural selection, male selection, or artificial selection. So the big giant tail feathers on males is an example of sexual selection, natural selection, male selection, or artificial selection. Number 13, bats like to eat bugs. Bugs don't like to be eaten. Which adaptation would help them avoid the bat's sonar, the clicky sound waves that bats use? Would new colors to blend in beat the sonar? Would faster wings to fly away beat the sonar? Would better eyes to see bats at night beat the sonar? Or would a new shell that absorbs sonar beat the sonar? Number 14, sharks are fish that have cartilage for a skeleton. Most other fish have bones. Which of the following statements about these two would be accurate evolutionarily? So number 1, they are not related. Sharks and fish are not related. Are they very closely related? Are they related but really far apart like lions and beetles are? Or are they related closely like, let's say, rabbits and beavers, both members of the same group? So sharks are fish that have cartilage for a skeleton. Most other fish have bones. Which of the following statements about these two would be accurate evolutionarily? They are not related. They are very closely related. They are related but very far apart. Or they are related and closely related. Number 15, why is variation so important to species? So why is variation, differences, so important to species? It allows animals to look different. It allows animals to eat different things. It allows animals to survive freak events like a storm. Or it allows animals to survive events like environmental changes. Which one of those is why variation is important? Look different, eat different, survive freak events like a storm, or survive environmental changes? Number 16. Turtles evolved a shell as protection. Which of the following examples best explains this process? So turtles evolved a shell. Which of these explains that process? Is it that generation by generation, females were drawn to males with larger shells and more colors, leading to disruptive selection and ultimately the turtle we know today? Is it that generation by generation, predators ate turtles with larger shells, leading to stabilizing selection and ultimately the turtle we know today? Is it that generation by generation, predators ate turtles with smaller shells, leading to directional selection and ultimately the turtle we know today? Or that generation by generation, females were drawn to males with more colors, leading to disruptive selection and ultimately the turtle we know today? So which one of these stories explains the most likely scenario for how a turtle evolved a shell? That females were drawn to males with larger shells, that predators ate turtles with big shells, that predators ate turtles with small shells, or that females were drawn to more colors. Number 17, a butterfly is poisonous, and to advertise its poison, its bright orange wings. A bird sees this, darts in to eat it, but then recognizes the color and doesn't. What would you expect to find in the next generation of butterflies? Would we expect the same bright orange color, a brighter orange color, a dimmer orange color, or larger wings? So in the next generation of these poisonous butterflies with these bright orange wings, would we expect to see the same bright orange, a brighter orange, a dimmer orange, or larger wings? Number 18, salamanders evolved the ability to regenerate limbs like arms, legs, and tails. Which of the following is a good reason why this would have happened? So they have evolved the ability to regenerate or regrow arms, tails, things like that. We want to know which of the following is a good reason why that would have happened. So that number 1, regeneration helps them to grow faster, like to grow up faster. Number 2, young salamanders can hide from predators better if they regenerate. Number 3, healing from wounds could help salamanders eat more food. Or number 4, the predator gets something to eat and the salamander can recover. Which one of those is a good explanation for why salamanders can now regenerate, why they've evolved that ability? Number 19. When we find fossils of T-Rex and we compare them to Allosaurus, they're very similar. Same teeth, same skull, one is just bigger. What does this suggest about their evolutionary relationship? So the fact that a T-Rex and an Allosaurus, their bones are very, very similar. Does that suggest that they are related, that they are not related, that they likely ate each other, or that they could procreate and produce offspring? Which one of those is suggested by the similarity of their bones? That they are related, not related, they ate each other, or they could produce offspring? Number 20. A species of beetle, brown or green, brown, yellow, and gold in color. A new predator moves into the area and starts eating all the beetles they can find. Which of the following best describes the effect it would have on that beetle species? That in a city, only green beetles would be left. That in the desert, only green beetles would be left. That in a cave, you would only find the yellow beetles. Or that in a forest, only the green beetles would be left. So there's a group of beetles. Some of them are green, some are brown, some are yellow, some are gold. A predator starts eating them. Which statement is true? That in a city, only green would be left. That in a desert, only green would be left. That in a cave, only yellow would be left. Or in a forest, only green would be left. Number 21. Lamarck had some ideas about evolution even before Darwin did, but Lamarck was wrong about one big concept. Which of the following was his mistake? Did he believe the best traits gave an advantage to survival, and that was wrong? Did he believe traits would be passed on to the offspring, and that was wrong? Did he believe that organisms could change over time, and that was wrong? Or did he believe the traits gained during your lifetime would be passed on to the offspring, and that was wrong? So Lamarck had some ideas, but he was wrong about one big concept. Which one? That best traits give an advantage, that traits are passed on, that organisms can change over time, or that traits gained in your lifetime were passed on to the offspring, to the children. 22. Charles Darwin believed that natural selection formed all living things. Which of the following statements is most accurate for Darwin's belief? So from Darwin, which one of these sounds like something he would agree with? That giraffes stretch for higher leaves, and as they stretch and stretch and stretch, their necks get longer and longer. That a beetle really wants to fly, so it just makes wings grow. That only the most successful lions make enough kills to survive, and they pass on their traits to the offspring. Or that chameleons blend in well with their environment, so some of them survive to reproduce. Which one of these sounds like something that would agree with Darwin? Giraffes can stretch their necks, trying harder and harder. A beetle wants to fly, so it makes wings. That only the most successful lions make enough kills, and so then they pass their traits on to their offspring. Or that chameleons blend in well with their environment, so some of them survive. 23. Modern evolutionary theory. Modern theory of evolution, Eric Reed, says that evolution takes a long time. Evolution is the change in genes. Evolution is based around luck and survival, or evolution is the change in the physical traits. The modern theory of evolution takes a long time, change in genes, based around luck, or physical traits. Which one of those is the modern theory of evolution? 24. The Galapagos Islands helped Darwin come up with his theory due to the what? What was it that he saw at the Galapagos that helped him with his theory? The finches and the tortoises, the finches and the salamanders, the finches and the other birds, or the finches and the barnacles? Which one on the Galapagos Islands helped him out? Finches and tortoises, finches and salamanders, finches and birds, finches and barnacles. 25. What is natural selection? Which of these is the definition of natural selection? The concept that the best adapted will survive and pass on the traits that made them successful. Or the idea that some organisms are good in every environment and they will spread. Or the theory that organisms need to compete for resources and some are luckier than others. Or 4, a silly idea based around science, hardly applicable or useful. Number 26. Define fitness as it is used in evolution. This is not physically fit. Look, I could lift weights. This is evolutionary fitness. Is fitness your ability to do exercises? Is fitness a measurement of your height and taller is better? Is fitness a measurement of how likely your traits are to help you survive? Or is fitness a measurement of how many chances you need to survive? So define fitness as used in evolution. Is it your ability to exercise, how tall you are, how likely your traits are to help you survive, or how many chances you need to survive? Almost done. 27. Which of the following is not an evidence of evolution? So which of the following is not proving evolution? Does the fossil record not prove evolution? Do storybooks not prove evolution? Does the geographic distribution of species not prove evolution? Or do homologous structures not prove evolution? 28. Which of the following is a homologous structure? So, homologous structure. Which of these describes a homologous structure? The bones in the arm of the human compared to the whale, the bat, or the lion. The wing of a bird compared to the wing of the butterfly. The leg of a horse and the tail of a snake. Or leftover structures like our appendix. Which one of those is an example of a homologous structure? The bones in the arm of the human compared to the arm of a whale, a bat, or a lion. The wing of a bird and the wing of a butterfly. The legs of a horse and the tail of a snake. Or leftovers like our appendix. Number 29. The appendix is a vestigial organ, something left over from a time previous. Which of the following describes another vestigial organ that we have as humans? Is it the muscles we use to move? Our eyes, opposable thumbs, or wisdom teeth? Which one of these is, like the appendix, a vestigial organ? The muscles that we use to move, arms, legs, stuff like that. Our eyes, opposable thumbs, or wisdom teeth? Now, this is kind of small, but this diagram shows what? It has this little walking thing, turning into this weird thing, then into a swimming thing, then into a whale-like thing, and then finally into whales and dolphins. So this diagram shows what? Does it show how weird animals look? The evolution of a turtle? How bears evolved? Or whale evolution? This diagram shows what? Number 31, thorogs, I made them up, are an ugly little fish. They use their ugly to hide because they look like rocks and other unappetizing things. But when predators are removed from their ecosystem, they start to become more beautiful year by year. Thorogs in zoos are brightly colored and wonderful. What form of natural selection would that be? Going from the ugly rock-looking ones to the beautiful, brightly colored ones. Would that be disruptive selection, where you go from your one good trait to two new different traits? Stabilizing selection, where the one good trait stays the only good trait? Or directional selection, where the old good trait is gone and there's a new good trait? So thorogs turn beautiful if there are no predators. Would that be directional, disruptive, stabilizing, or Darwin? Here's a hint. We only did one of these. Do you remember which one? 32. For a new species to appear, what needs to happen? For a new species to appear, do we need some form of food and shelter? For a new species to appear, do we need genetic change? For a new species to appear, do we need some form of isolation? Or for a new species to appear, do we need only natural selection? For a new species to appear, what needs to happen? Food and shelter, genetic change, some kind of isolation, or natural selection? This is it, guys. Last two. 33. A river flowing through a field after a flood separates two populations of horses. This sounds oddly familiar. They won't cross the water. It's not worth the risk. Maybe they're not good swimmers. This is an example of. So a river flows through a field and separates one group of horses into two groups of horses. They cannot cross that river. Is that geographic isolation, behavioral isolation, temporal isolation, or allopatric postzygotic isolation? So the river separating geographic, behavioral, temporal, or allopatric postzygotic. It's not the last. Well, at our level, it's not the last one. And finally, number 34. Bacteria evolved resistance to antibiotics over many, many generations of constant use of antibiotics. How did this happen? So bacteria evolved resistance over many, many generations. Which one of these explains how? Is it because the bacteria picked the best traits to survive the antibiotic? Is it because an evil mad scientist created them, genetically engineering them to resist treatments? Kyle Hill. Is it the most resistant ones survive treatment after treatment, getting stronger and stronger? Or is it we treated the bacteria in 1947 and after that they were just resistant to everything? So they've evolved resistance over many, many generations. Which one of these backs that up and explains it? Bacteria picked the best traits, and evil mad scientists made them. Resistant ones survived treatment after treatment, getting stronger and stronger. Or we treated them in 1947, and after that they were resistant to everything. So ladies and gentlemen, this is our evolution test. I hope that this read has helped you, and I can't wait to see everybody in class.